Hey,
Dan.
B, have you seen my phone? Did I leave it in here somewhere? I was in here a little while ago and we were talking. I don't see it anywhere. Have you? Do you see it in the kitchen by the coffee pot or something?
No, I've
Anywhere?
got my phone. I don't know where yours is.
Oh, man. Janet, have you seen my phone anywhere? I guess I don't know. I guess I left it somewhere in the building or something. I've been in Barrett's office. I asked Barrett about it. Barrett said I didn't leave it in his office. I've checked my office. I know I brought it. I know I had it in my pocket.
Damn.
But I took that thing out somewhere along the line, and I don't know. Could you call
Sure.
my phone and see if it'll ring, and maybe I'll hear it ring and I can find it? Hello, Forever Family. This evening, we're going to be talking about loss and the implications and complications that loss brings to our sense of control in our lives. What I think is a very important topic. You just watched me in a panic, run around trying to find my phone. Of course, in reality, I never lose my phone, of course, but to illustrate the point of what happens when we lose a device like that. All of a sudden, communication's out of control, isn't it? We can't get our emails, we can't send our messages, we can't check Facebook, we can't do all these things. And anymore, we get it all in a panic, don't we? Because something now, because of loss, is out of our control. This was really driven home to me last week. Carol and I were on the cruise. We had just finished dinner in the dining room. We were gone back to our room and we were fixing to go out again. And Carol said, "Where's my purse?" And we started looking for a purse and looked all over the room and couldn't find it. And we started playing that game of, okay, where could you have left it? And came back to, she must have left it in the dining room probably. So she went out to find it. Now, in the meantime, I'm sitting in the room in a state of panic, to be honest with you, because inside that purse were both of our passports, the loan credit card that we had brought with us, and half the cash that we brought with us. And all these things are going through my mind. Oh, okay, so if we lose the passports, how are we going to get back in the country when we go through immigration control? Are they going to take our word for it that we're actually from Oklahoma and we really are United States citizens? I mean, how big a deal is this going to be? And I'm trying to think of all this stuff. And then she walks in the room with a big smile on her face. She went to Lost and Found, got the purse, everything's okay. Oh, and by the way, with this whole purse thing, please understand that I am not in any way casting aspersions on Carol because she forgot her purse. Hey, a couple of days before, we had been in a bagel store in an airport, and I bought a bagel, and I walked out of the store with the bagel, and I left my carry-on right there at the counter. And this sweet little lady behind the counter grabbed it and chased me out and gave me my carry-on back. So it's not like I don't forget things too. But it drove home to me how so much of our life is on a much finer edge of being out of control, in control than what we think. A lot of people really are concerned about the stock market, and they watch that stock market pretty close. And there's a reason for that, and the reason is that for many of us, retirement and opportunities of various kinds are all tied to a great degree to how that market does. And for those people who've been around a while, they've watched at times when the market would crash 30, 40%, and you lose 30 or 40% of your stock portfolio, you've been comfortably retired, all of a sudden you're uncomfortably retired. Because finances have very much to do with how you control what happens in your life, where you get to live, do you get to travel, do you get to do this or do that, very much tied to your finances. And if your finances all of a sudden because of loss are kind of out of your control, then you find yourself forced to face a whole new set of circumstances. And we don't really like that, do we? Loss really works on us when it comes to this sense that we have that we're in control of our lives. But I believe that loss really is an ongoing reminder of the fact that our lives are not in our control. I don't really agree with this idea that when our children are participating in league sports and things, that you don't have winners and losers in games. I know this is kind of a big thing now. Let them play ball, let them do whatever, but you don't keep score and there's no winner or loser. Everybody gets a participation trophy. And the reason I have a problem with that is because we really need to learn how to lose. And we really need to learn how to deal with loss. Because you know and I know that loss is a part of life. It's a very real part of life. I get back on the ship on Sunday evening of Super Bowl. Man, there were people running around and they were celebrating because the New England Patriots had won. And there were people dragging around because the Los Angeles Rams had lost. Well, that's life, isn't it? But when we lose, it drives home to us that we don't have everything under control because, I mean, be honest. If you could control everything, would you ever lose? Or would you always win? No matter what you did, whether you're playing dominoes, or you're in a softball game, or you're in the stock market, or whatever it might be. I mean, you would always win because that means that we're in control, right? Here's the thing. Dealing with loss is very important because it has some powerful implications. For instance, in the parable of the rich man in Luke chapter 12, why did he build bigger barns? Well, he's greedy and he's selfish, and I would agree with that. But don't you think that probably, and I'm not in the guy's head, but don't you think that probably one of the reasons he wants to build bigger barns is because the more you've got, the more control you have? Well, if I get sick, I got plenty of money to cover. If there's an economic downturn, I'm insulated. I'm going to be okay. Here's the problem. When is enough enough? And obviously for this rich man, enough wasn't enough. He wanted more, because when you start down that path, enough is never going to be enough. And on top of that, just like with this fella, you're going to turn inward instead of outward. You're going to start thinking about what can I do for me rather than what can I do for others. As we seek to insulate ourselves, as we seek to be in control of everything, ultimately we are, in a very real sense, turning away from others and turning away from God. And that's not a good thing. And look what happened to the rich man. Okay, it cost him his life because of God's judgment upon him. I have seen through the years, over and over again, and it's heartbreaking, but people confronting the loss of a child, and they lose their faith. They lose a mate, and they lose their faith. They lose their health, and they lose their faith. They lose a business, and they lose their faith. I've seen it happen. Why? Because if we're not careful, we become convinced that somehow God let us down. That we're supposed to be in control. We're not supposed to have to deal with all this stuff. And when it happens, it can make us bitter. It can make us angry. It can make us resentful of God. I've seen it happen, and you have too. Because life forces us to confront the fact that we're not in control. There are a lot of people and a lot of things I don't want to lose. But there's no guarantee that's not going to happen because ultimately things are not in my control. I think that's why it's so important, let me close with this, that we have the perspective that Job had in Job chapter 1. Right at the end of chapter 1, as Job is processing the fact that he's pretty much lost everything, he says this: "Naked came I into this world, naked shall I return. The Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." What's he saying? Even in loss, I understand. In fact, in loss, I understand who's in control. God's in control. When I was prospering, God was in control. Now that it seems like I've lost everything, God's still in control. Everything I have by His grace. Everything I have, ultimately, is a gift from Him. And as long as we keep that perspective, I think it's going to go a long ways toward helping us to be able to realize with and reckon and understand the fact that we're really not in control. And when loss comes and forces us to confront that fact, we're going to be far more ready to accept it and to deal with it in a healthy way. Loss is something we're all going to have to deal with, brothers and sisters. Every one of us, we're going to have to deal with loss. We're going to have to help others, and others are going to have to help us when those difficult times come and we have to face the pain of loss and really the lack of control that is reflected by that. I hope that this evening, in your discussion about this subject, that we can open up and share and come up with some ideas, concepts, ways in which we can help each other to deal with loss when it comes. God bless you. Thank you.